Hi, my name is Eli Helmuth and I'm here with you today, almost live from Boulder, Colorado at the Backcountry Access headquarters. And I've been a backcountry skier for the last 30 years, a mountain guide full-time for the last 25 years. And every winter up in Rocky Mountain National Park, my company Climbing Life Guides, we train folks with level 1, level 2 avalanche education in the high mountains of Rocky Mountain National Park. So today, I'm going to share with you some of the ideas that we cover in our avalanche courses, which is what to bring with you in the backcountry. Some of the essential items and some of the items that as a group you may elect to carry in a certain environment. So starting with what we should already know, the 3 key items that everybody should have in their pack and that should be functioning are a digital beacon, a avalanche probe pole, and a metal shovel. So these 3 things, everybody should have. The batteries and the function, of course, on the beacon should be checked before every trip. These shovels break down and everything should go inside the pack except for the beacon. The shovel, probe pole, these go inside the pack. They should not be visible. Very often the entire group unfortunately gets caught in an avalanche. Some folks end up on the surface able to rescue. And if the gear is on the outside of the pack, it's not likely to be there in such a scenario. So it's got to be inside the pack, the beacon underneath the clothes, and these things are all checked and mandatory on every trip. One of the ethics in the backcountry that hopefully we already know about, one of the foundational ideas, is that we are self-responsible, self-reliant, and ready for any eventuality. Hopefully a great planning process will keep us out of trouble, but one of the big sort of ethics mottos is plan for the best, prepare for the worst. Worst case scenario, that is. So certainly avalanche accidents can result in injuries, and very often we see folks accidentally hitting trees, rocks, hurting knees. And these accidents in the backcountry, it seems like, well, we're not that far from the trailhead in our planning process, but realize in my work as a rescuer in Rocky Mountain National Park, for instance, very often rescues just a few miles from the trailhead can be 6, 10, 12 hours or more to get the hurt person into an ambulance. So the priority when we have an injury is to get the call out immediately, make sure the rescue teams are on the way, and to stabilize our hurt person. And realize also, as more people get out in the backcountry these days, we're going to see the potential for you may be helping other groups where you are out in the backcountry, maybe somebody else who's injured. So one of the most important things, one thing I always carry with me in my pack is this small tent. It weighs under a pound, and as part of the group gear we're going to look at, this item I consider essential because a bivy sack is helpful, a space blanket only in really non-winter environments. And the idea with the shelter is we can fit a number of people, up to 6 people at least, underneath this thing, especially when digging out where there's no floor. And staying out of the elements is one of the key ways to prevent hypothermia and keep the group in good shape in a bad storm. Other basic things I always take with me: a functional headlamp with fresh enough batteries, and I always bring my Spot satellite transceiver. This is a device that only sends out a signal. The one I have here, this is an older version, and the idea with this is it, as well as having a cell phone, the Spot and devices like this allow us to, with satellite coverage, get out a signal immediately to rescue authorities and to our contact persons to let them know we have a problem. We can also push a button to let them know we're having a good time, everything is good, and so they know exactly where we're at. So those things always go with me. Some other basic things that are in my pack that are going to assist with getting out of trouble, staying on track, are a GPS device. I often use that for navigation, especially in mountain ranges where whiteout conditions and above tree line travel is common. First aid kits, there are different sizes. Generally we're thinking that trauma resulting from hitting objects, broken bones, puncture wounds, things like that are the most common likelihoods in a winter environment when we're sliding on snow. So primarily in the first aid kit I've got rubber gloves to deal with blood for those who are helping the injured, and lots of gauze and materials to stop bleeding wounds. I've also got some heat pads in here to help deal with cold hands and potentially some of the onset of hypothermia. And so I've got a larger version and a smaller version. This is probably more of my personal size blister repair kit. And then often, depending on the group size, we'll carry a larger group version. A repair kit, even a few miles from the road, is a really good idea. Why? Because we generally prefer skiing, sliding, boarding in deeper snow. And deeper snow is not easy to walk in. We might be going up to our waist or deeper without flotation. So it may seem like, well, it's a short trip, skis are in good shape, probably not going to need it. But for the relatively lightweight, under a pound of a good repair kit, things like epoxy and screws to reset bindings, a screwdriver to tighten bindings and other aspects that can loosen up overuse. Ski straps, really helpful for repairs. And I go through a number of these zip ties every winter repairing bindings, ski poles, and other items that often break on our tours. So got some other tools in here, and a repair kit. Also, very often we want to include some pieces of our binding, depending on what sort of binding setup we're using. You may carry some of the parts that break most often that are likely to break on a tour, and which I might want to replace while I'm out there. So a basic repair kit, and somewhat specialized for each person's bindings, is really helpful, especially as tours get longer. Otherwise important things that go with us as a group, and realize that this group gear, it's going to add up to about 4 pounds total. Well, the average group size, hopefully somewhere between 3 and 5 people. Each person sharing a pound of gear shouldn't be too much of a burden for the safety that it provides. So I've got a pot set here. It's steel. You can certainly get lighter weight aluminum sets. Inside I have an entire stove with canister, and with this not only can we provide hot drinks for a cold group, but injured folks often can't provide enough heat for themselves. Heat packs may not be sufficient. We can't typically take clothes off in some of these winter environments, so instead heating up water with the stove, putting that hot water close to the body to provide heat for an injured person could be a key part of the survival. As well, each person should ideally, even in warmer climates, have some sort of really nice warm jacket. This is a polyester fill jacket. Something like this is pretty essential, and if everyone in the group has one, together these can make a sleeping bag and or really good insulative system for an injured person if necessary, or keep us warm in a storm. So those are some of the most important basics: first aid kit, shelter, sleeping bag. I'm always going to have a few extra items of clothing with me, and I suppose this is part of the group gear if necessary. I've got some extra warm gloves, some RAB guide gloves. Everybody loves a buff to protect the face in difficult conditions. Sometimes a warm hat's a good idea as an extra, and a pair of warm socks in many places is going to be a nice thing to have. So got those as well in the pack. A few other key items here: a pair of goggles. I prefer a red lens for difficult conditions. Some coastal environments, 2 pairs of goggles can be super key. Part of my navigation system, I've got an altimeter watch, and anything that uses batteries, GPSs, watches, phones. It's a good idea to have multiples of these. As we know, batteries don't do well often in cold environments. We should know with our smartphones especially, but all of our phones, turn them off at the beginning of the tour. They do interfere with the beacons, but keep them warm, close to the body where they could be functional, and where we can potentially get out a 911 call if necessary, worst case scenario. So we bring these things with us. Goal is never to have to use them, because we've done a good job of planning out our day. A few other key items to consider: certainly a helmet, wearing these more and more in the backcountry. As part of group gear on longer tours potentially, realizing that blown out knees, ACL, such things are somewhat of a regular occurrence, certainly a high potential. A rescue sled, this package, combined with a pair of skis, the injured person skis, doesn't yet work with a snowboard, but this setup can make a full rescue sled that could help transport our injured person. So we can also improvise this potentially. Things like cord and carabiners and duct tape can be helpful, but you might consider one of these professional. This is made by Brooks Range Mountaineering sleds for rescue purposes. We've all got different ideas on food. Certainly things that freeze in the winter don't tend to do well. So I tend to carry more dried fruit. Packets like this with electrolytes are really helpful in the mountain environment for hydration and keeping electrolyte levels high. And many of us these days prefer the European diet in the mountains, selection of chocolates, meats, cheeses, things that don't freeze, that provide a lot of energy for these high energy days. You know, sometimes we put duct tape on the ski pole. This is a large roll of Gorilla Tape. It's got some heft to it, but typically if we need duct tape, we need a fair bit for emergency purposes. So instead of wrapping it on the ski pole, I'm just going to stick this roll in the bottom of my pack. And you know, so when packing the pack, the things that are the heaviest, I'm going to stick in the bottom, the things I'm not likely to use during the day and that aren't going to be damaged easily. So things like my rescue tent, hoping to never have to use that, that's going to go in the bottom. Things like the duct tape, not planning on using that. Got my first aid kit and repair kit. Those are all going to sit in the very bottom of the pack. Let's see what else I've got here. Take some of the extra group gear, my pot set, and something for better skiing. We want to find that nice balance, you know, balance between enough stuff in the pack to deal with an emergency, but not so much weight that it encumbers our movement and makes sliding downhill a chore. So some of the more delicate things in the pack, my spot, my headlamp, are going to go in my top lid up here. Radios are often a really good idea for communication between the party, especially when we're dividing up some of the pitches in the backcountry, longer length movement from safer area to safer area. A set of radios is really helpful. All these things, of course, should be tested. Batteries full strength, everybody on the same channel, and all systems go for a great day in the backcountry. Throw my watch on here in a minute. And you know, one of the small item, very helpful in the winter, a stick of lip goo, which protects the face and the lips. And I love that BCA, this airbag pack's got a pocket right there for that, and my watch, so it's easy to find. So I do have an airbag pack here. This is the BCA Float 32, and I've been using these float bags since they came out. I consider it an essential part of my avalanche safety gear. And like all of this, it does have its limitations, but considering the extra level of safety it provides, it's a no-brainer that I'm going to bring this in the backcountry with me every day. But it is essential, as with all this gear, that we're sure that this pack is in working order. So I want to test it somewhat regularly, certainly here at the beginning of the season. I want to check the air canister inside, make sure it's fully loaded, fully filled, and of course make sure all the components are correctly hooked up. If I'm unsure, it's easy to practice. Blow the cord, and I'm going to pretty much start every tour, rarely do I not, make sure that the pull cord, that the release on the airbag pack is exposed and ready to be used. So looks like we're all ready here for a great day in the mountains. Want to wish you all the best of success this winter in your planning and preparation. Remember, there are a lot of great resources out there, including the Backcountry Access website. They've got a bunch of other videos on there on the planning, preparation, and rescue processes involved in this. There are also resources at my website, climbinglife.com, and avalanche courses provided through ARI providers is what we recommend, American Institute for Avalanche Research and Education, of which our courses are part of. So hope to see you out there in the mountains this winter, and have a safe one and enjoy those soft turns.
Remember, these instructional videos are no substitute for an avalanche class. Check out the class offerings from Climbing Life Guides at climbinglife.com. For more educational videos and research, check out backcountryaccess.com/education.